The sun had barely begun to peek through the clouds as Leela Patel stepped out of her car and gazed up at the imposing facade of Mercy General Hospital. The sleek, modern building stood as a testament to the cutting-edge medical care provided within its walls. Leela took a deep breath, straightened her white coat, and walked through the sliding glass doors, ready to begin her first day as a surgeon at this prestigious institution. As she made her way through the bustling lobby, Leela couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and nerves. She had worked tirelessly to get to this point, graduating at the top of her class and completing a rigorous residency program. Now she was ready to make her mark and prove herself among some of the best surgeons in the country. The surgical ward was a hive of activity as Leela navigated the hallways, her eyes taking in every detail. Nurses hurried past, their arms laden with charts and medical supplies, while fellow surgeons engaged in hushed conversations outside patient rooms. The air hummed with a sense of purpose and urgency, and Leela felt her heart rate quicken in response. As she approached the nurses' station, Leela noticed a sudden shift in the atmosphere. But conversations halted abruptly, and curious eyes turned to assess the newcomer. Leela felt the weight of their gazes upon her, a mixture of interest and skepticism evident in their expressions. "You must be Dr. Patel," a voice called out, cutting through the momentary silence. Leela turned to find herself face to face with a woman in her 50s, her graying hair pulled back into a tight bun, and her sharp bluey eyes fixed on Leela with an intensity that was almost unsettling. "Yes, that's me," Leela replied, extending her hand with a confident smile. "And you are?" "Dr. Karen Nichols, head of surgery," the woman responded, her handshake firm and brisk. "I run a tight ship here, Dr. Patel. I expect nothing but the best from my team, and I don't tolerate anything less than excellence. I hope you're prepared to meet those standards." Leela met Dr. Nichols' gaze unflinchingly, her own determination shining through. "Of course, Dr. Nichols. I'm here to provide the highest quality care to our patients and to be an asset to this department." Dr. Nichols gave a curt nod, her expression unreadable. "We'll see about that. I'll be keeping a close eye on you, Dr. Patel. Don't give me any reason to doubt your capabilities." With that, Dr. Nichols turned on her heel and strode away, leaving Leela to contend with the curious stares and whispers of her new colleagues. She could feel the undercurrent of tension in the air, the unspoken questions and judgments that hung between them. Refusing to be intimidated, Leela held her head high and set about familiarizing herself with the department. She immersed herself in patient charts, reviewing medical histories and treatment plans with meticulous attention to detail. Her interactions with patients were warm and compassionate, her bedside manner earning her grateful smiles and words of appreciation. Despite her best efforts, however, Leela couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched, her every move scrutinized for any sign of weakness or error. She caught glimpses of Dr. Nichols observing her from afar, her expression inscrutable, and heard the murmurs of her colleagues when they thought she was out of earshot. As the day wore on, Leela found herself increasingly aware of the subtle undercurrents of prejudice that seemed to permeate the department. Offhand comments about her background veiled doubts about her qualifications, and the occasional dismissive glance all served as reminders that she was an outsider, a newcomer who had yet to prove her worth. But Leela was no stranger to adversity. She had faced discrimination and overcome obstacles throughout her life, and she was determined to do the same here. With a steadfast resolve, she threw herself into her work, her skill and dedication speaking for themselves. As the sun began to set on her first day at Mercy General Hospital, Leela knew that the road ahead would be challenging. The prejudices and doubts of her colleagues were like shadows, lurking just beneath the surface, waiting to emerge at any moment. But she also knew that she had the strength, the knowledge, and the unwavering commitment to her patients to weather any storm that came her way. With a deep breath and a determined smile, Leela stepped out into the evening air, ready to face whatever the future held. She had taken the first steps on a journey that would test her resilience, challenge her beliefs, and ultimately prove the power of her own convictions. And she was ready to meet every challenge head-on, knowing that her purpose was clear and her resolve unshakable. The days turned into weeks as Leela settled into her role at Mercy General Hospital. She quickly established herself as a skilled and compassionate surgeon, her dedication to her patients earning her the respect and admiration of those she treated. However, the same could not be said for her colleagues, particularly Dr. Karen Nichols. Despite Leela's best efforts to integrate herself into the surgical team, she found herself consistently met with resistance and skepticism. Dr. Nichols, in particular, seemed to take every opportunity to undermine Leela's confidence and question her judgment. During a routine surgery, Leela found herself working alongside Dr. Nichols, their hands moving in perfect synchronization as they navigated the delicate procedure. As Leela made a careful incision, Dr. Nichols suddenly spoke up, her voice cutting through the tense silence of the operating room. "Dr. Patel, are you certain that's the correct approach?" Dr. Nichols asked, her tone dripping with condescension. "I believe we discussed using a different technique during the pre-op meeting." Leela felt her cheeks burn with a mix of embarrassment and frustration. She knew that her approach was sound, backed by the latest research and her own clinical experience. But under the scrutiny of Dr. Nichols' gaze, she found herself second-guessing her every move. "I'm confident in my decision, Dr. Nichols," Leela replied, her voice steady despite the tension in the room. "This technique has shown excellent results in similar cases, and I believe it gives our patient the best chance at a full recovery." Dr. Nichols raised an eyebrow, her expression unconvinced. "Very well, Dr. Patel. But remember, the responsibility falls on your shoulders if anything goes wrong." As the surgery proceeded, Leela could feel the weight of Dr. Nichols' judgment bearing down on her. Every stitch, every decision was met with a critical eye, and Leela found herself working twice as hard to prove her competence. Outside of the operating room, the challenges continued. Leela overheard whispered conversations among her colleagues, their voices laced with doubt and skepticism. "I heard she only got this position because of some diversity initiative," one nurse murmured to another. "I bet she's not even half as qualified as the other candidates." "Dr. Nichols seems to think she's a liability," another surgeon chimed in. "I wouldn't be surprised if she doesn't last long here." Leela felt the sting of their words, the unspoken prejudices that colored their perceptions of her. She knew that she was more than qualified for her position, that her skills and dedication spoke for themselves. But in the face of constant doubt and scrutiny, she found herself questioning her own abilities. One afternoon, as Leela was reviewing patient charts in the staff lounge, she found herself approached by a friendly face. Janelle, a young nurse with a warm smile and kind eyes, sat down beside her, offering a cup of coffee. "You look like you could use a friend," Janelle said softly, her voice filled with understanding. "I know it can't be easy being the new surgeon on the block, especially with Dr. Nichols breathing down your neck." Leela felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. "Thank you, Janelle. It means a lot to have someone in my corner." As the two women talked, Leela discovered that Janelle, too, had faced her share of challenges and prejudices within the hospital. As a young black nurse, she had often been overlooked and underestimated by her colleagues. "It's not easy being different in a place like this," Janelle confided. "But I've learned that the only way to prove them wrong is to keep showing up, keep doing my best, and never let their doubts define me." Leela nodded, her resolve strengthening with Janelle's words. She knew that she couldn't let the shadows of doubt cast by others dim her own light. As the days turned into weeks, Leela found solace in the friendships she forged with Janelle and Dr. Amir Khatri, a fellow surgeon who had faced similar challenges as a Muslim man in the field of medicine. Together, they formed a quiet alliance, supporting one another through the daily trials and tribulations of life at Mercy General Hospital. So even as Leela found strength in these newfound connections, she knew that the true test of her resilience was yet to come. The shadows of doubt and prejudice that lurked within the hospital walls were growing stronger, and she could sense that a storm was brewing on the horizon. With a deep breath and a steadfast determination, Leela prepared herself for the battles ahead. She knew that the road to proving herself would be long and arduous, but she was ready to face every challenge with the same unwavering dedication that had brought her this far. As she stood on the precipice of an unknown future, Leela could feel the weight of her own convictions, the unshakable belief that she was exactly where she was meant to be. And with that knowledge as her guiding light, she stepped forward into the shadows, ready to face whatever lay ahead. As the weeks turned into months, Leela found herself settling into a routine at Mercy General Hospital. Despite the constant challenges and the lingering shadows of doubt, she remained focused on her patients, pouring her heart and soul into every case that came her way. One morning, as Leela was reviewing the surgical schedule for the day, she noticed a new patient name on the list, Edward Thompson. The chart indicated that the elderly man had been involved in a serious car accident and required immediate surgery to address multiple fractures and internal injuries. As Leela made her way to Mr. Thompson's room, she couldn't help but notice the buzz of activity surrounding his case. Nurses whispered excitedly about the high-profile patient, and even Dr. Nichols seemed to be on high alert, barking orders and demanding the utmost attention to deal. When Leela entered Mr. Thompson's room, she was struck by the man's presence. Despite his injuries, he exuded an air of quiet strength and dignity, his eyes sharp and assessing as they met her own. "You must be Dr. Patel," Mr. Thompson said, his voice deep and measured. "I've heard great things about you." Lila felt a flush of surprise at his words. "Thank you, Mr. Thompson. I'll be assisting Dr. Nichols with your surgery today. Rest assured you're in excellent hands." As Leela reviewed Mr. Thompson's medical history and discussed the surgical plan with him, she couldn't help but feel a sense of connection with the man. He listened intently, asking thoughtful questions and expressing his trust in her abilities. The surgery itself was a complex and delicate procedure, requiring the utmost precision and skill. Lila worked alongside Dr. Nichols, their hands moving in perfect synchronization as they navigated the intricate network of bones and tissues. But as the surgery progressed, Leela noticed a change in Dr. Nichols' demeanor. The older surgeon's movements became hesitant, her brow furrowed with uncertainty. In a critical moment, as Dr. Nichols made a crucial incision, Lila saw the potential for a devastating mistake. Without hesitation, Leela spoke up, her voice calm and clear. "Dr. Nichols, I believe we need to adjust our approach. The patient's anatomy suggests a slightly different angle would be safer." For a moment, the operating room fell silent, the tension palpable. Dr. Nichols' eyes flashed with a mix of surprise and irritation, her pride clearly wounded by Lila's intervention. But as the weight of Leela's words sank in, Dr. Nichols gave a curt nod, her expression tight. "Very well, Dr. Patel. Proceed as you see fit." With a steady hand and unwavering focus, Leela guided the team through the remainder of the surgery, her expertise and intuition proving invaluable. When the final stitch was placed and Mr. Thompson was safely in recovery, Lila felt a rush of relief and satisfaction. However, her moment of triumph was short-lived. As she stepped out of the operating room, Lila found herself face-to-face with a seething Dr. Nichols. "How dare you question my judgment in front of the entire surgical team?" Dr. Nichols hissed, her voice low and menacing. "I won't tolerate insubordination, Dr. Patel. You may think you're something special, but you're treading on very thin ice." Lila felt her heart race, the adrenaline from the surgery still coursing through her veins. She met Dr. Nichols' gaze steadily, refusing to be cowed by the older woman's anger. "I was only doing what was best for the patient, Dr. Nichols," Leela replied, her voice calm and measured. "And I believe that's what we're all here for, isn't it?" Dr. Nichols' eyes narrowed, her jaw clenching with barely contained rage. "Watch yourself, Dr. Patel. I have the power to make or break your career in this hospital. Don't you forget that." With those words, Dr. Nichols turned on her heel and stormed away, leaving Leela to grapple with the aftermath of their confrontation. In the days that followed, Leela found herself drawn to Mr. Thompson's bedside, checking on his recovery and engaging in thoughtful conversations. The elderly man seemed to sense the tensions brewing within the hospital, and he took a keen interest in Leela's experiences. "When you have a fire in you, Dr. Patel," Mr. Thompson observed one afternoon, his eyes twinkling with understanding. "I can see that you're fighting battles on many fronts here." Lila sighed, the weight of her struggles suddenly feeling heavier. "It's not easy, Mr. Thompson. I feel like I'm constantly being tested, my every move scrutinized and judged." Mr. Thompson nodded, a knowing smile playing at the corners of his mouth. The true measure of a person's character is how they behave in the face of adversity. You have the strength within you to overcome these challenges, Dr. Patel. Don't let anyone else's doubts extinguish your light. As the days turned into weeks, Lila found solace in her conversations with Mr. Thompson. His wisdom and unwavering support gave her the courage to continue fighting, even as the shadows of prejudice and doubt grew darker around her. She began to document the instances of discrimination and bias she witnessed, keeping meticulous records of every slight and microaggression. Lila knew that she couldn't fight this battle alone, and she was determined to build a case that would expose the systemic issues plaguing Mercy General Hospital. So with the help of her allies, Janelle and Dr. Katri, Leela gathered evidence and testimonies, piecing together a damning picture of a toxic culture that had been allowed to fester unchecked. As she worked tirelessly to build her case, Lila could feel the winds of change stirring, as she knew that she was on the brink of something momentous, a reckoning that would shake the very foundations of the hospital. And so, with a fierce determination burning in her heart, Lila pressed forward, ready to face the storm that was gathering on the horizon. She knew that the road ahead would be treacherous, but she also knew that she had the strength, the allies, and the unwavering conviction to see it through. For in the face of adversity, Leila had discovered a truth that would guide her through even the darkest of times, that the power to change the world often lies in the hands of those who are brave enough to stand up and fight for what is right. The tension at Mercy General Hospital had reached a boiling point, and Leila knew that the time for action had come. With the evidence she had gathered and the support of her allies, she was ready to confront the systemic issues that had plagued the hospital for far too long. The opportunity presented itself in the form of a high-profile surgery, one that would be attended by the hospital board and a host of influential figures from the medical community. Dr. Nichols had insisted on leading the operation, relegating Leila to a secondary role despite her proven expertise. As the surgery began, the atmosphere in the operating room was electric. The eyes of the observers bore down on the surgical team, their presence adding an extra layer of pressure to an already high-stakes situation. Leila watched as Dr. Nichols made the first incision, her movements precise and confident. But as the surgery progressed, Leila noticed a troubling pattern. Dr. Nichols' technique was becoming increasingly erratic, her decision-making clouded by a combination of ego and stubbornness. In a critical moment, as Dr. Nichols prepared to make a crucial cut, Leila saw the potential for a devastating mistake. So the patient's life hung in the balance, and she knew that she could not remain silent. With a deep breath, Leila spoke up, her voice clear and unwavering. "Dr. Nichols, I must interject. The approach you're taking poses a significant risk to the patient. I believe we need to reevaluate our strategy." The operating room fell silent, the weight of Leila's words hanging in the air. Dr. Nichols' eyes flashed with rage, her face contorting in a mask of fury. "How dare you question my judgment in front of everyone?" Dr. Nichols seethed, her voice dripping with venom. "I am the lead surgeon here, and I will not tolerate this insubordination." Leila stood her ground, her resolve unshakable. "With all due respect, Dr. Nichols, our first and foremost duty is to the patient. I cannot stand by and watch as a potentially fatal error is made." The murmurs of the observers grew louder, the tension in the room reaching a fever pitch. Leila could feel the eyes of the board members and her colleagues upon her, their expressions a mix of shock, admiration, and uncertainty. In that moment, a figure stepped forward from the shadows. It was Mr. Thompson, his presence commanding the attention of everyone in the room. "Dr. Patel is right," Mr. Thompson declared, his voice firm and authoritative. "I have witnessed firsthand the skill and integrity she brings to her work. If she says there is a problem with the surgical approach, then it is our duty to listen." Dr. Nichols' face paled, her anger giving way to a growing realization of the gravity of the situation. The board members exchanged glances, their expressions hardening with each passing moment. Under the guidance of Leila and Mr. Thompson, the surgical team adjusted their approach, navigating the complex procedure with renewed focus and precision. In the end, the surgery was a resounding success, the patient's life saved by the quick thinking and expertise of those who had dared to speak up. As the observers filed out of the operating room, the whispers began to spread like wildfire. The story of Leila's bravery and Dr. Nichols' recklessness was on everyone's lips, and the foundation of the hospital's power structure began to crack. In the aftermath of the surgery, Mr. Thompson requested a private meeting with Leila and the hospital board. It was there that he revealed his true identity, not just a wealthy businessman, but a renowned figure in the medical community, with deep ties to the governing bodies that oversaw hospitals like Mercy General. "Dr. Patel," Mr. Thompson began, his eyes shining with respect, "your courage and integrity have been a shining light in the darkness of this institution. You have exposed the rot that has been allowed to fester here for far too long." And he turned to the board members, his expression grave. "I have seen enough to know that change must come to Mercy General Hospital. The culture of discrimination, ego, and malpractice ends now." With a nod to Leila, Mr. Thompson continued, "I propose that Dr. Patel be appointed as the new chief of surgery, effective immediately. Her leadership and vision will guide this hospital into a new era of inclusivity, excellence, and patient-centered care." The board members, their faces etched with a mix of shock and resignation, could only nod in agreement. They knew that the tide had turned, and that the old guard of Mercy General Hospital had been toppled by the sheer force of Leila's unwavering commitment to what was right. As the meeting adjourned, Leila felt a rush of emotions wash over her. The weight of the responsibility she had been entrusted with settled on her shoulders, but it was a burden she was ready to bear. As she knew that the road ahead would be challenging, that there would be obstacles and resistance at every turn. But Leila also knew that she was not alone. She had the support of her allies, the respect of her patients, and the unwavering conviction that had brought her to this moment. With a deep breath and a determined smile, she stepped out into the hallway, ready to face the future and lead Mercy General Hospital into a new era of healing and hope. The reckoning had come, and Leela Patel had emerged as the catalyst for change. In the face of adversity, she had found her true strength, and in doing so had set in motion a transformation that would forever alter the course of Mercy General Hospital and the lives of all those who walked through its doors. In the weeks following Lila's appointment as Chief of Surgery, Mercy General Hospital underwent a remarkable transformation. Under her leadership, the once toxic culture of discrimination and ego began to crumble, giving way to a new spirit of collaboration, respect, and patient-centered care. Lila wasted no time in implementing sweeping changes throughout the surgical department. She established mandatory diversity and inclusion training for all staff members, ensuring that everyone from the most senior surgeons to the newest interns understood the importance of creating a welcoming and equitable environment. She also overhauled the hospital's hiring and promotion practices, putting in place a system that valued merit, skill, and character above all else. So no longer would talented individuals be overlooked or dismissed based on their race, gender, or background. As Lila worked tirelessly to reshape the culture of Mercy General, she found herself drawing strength from the support of her allies and the gratitude of her patients. Nell and Dr. Khatri stood by her side, their unwavering friendship and guidance a constant source of comfort in the face of the challenges that lay ahead. And then there were the patients, the countless lives that Lila had touched through her work. They came to her with their fears, their hopes, and their dreams, and she listened with an open heart and a compassionate ear. In their stories, Lila found the inspiration to keep pushing forward, to fight for a healthcare system that truly served the needs of all. As the months passed, Lila's influence began to extend beyond the walls of Mercy General. Her story of courage and determination had spread throughout the medical community, inspiring others to stand up against injustice and fight for change in their own institutions. She was invited to speak at conferences and seminars, sharing her experiences and insights with a captivated audience. And with each talk, each conversation, Lila could feel the ripples of change spreading outward, touching lives and transforming hearts in ways she had never imagined possible. One day, as Lila was preparing for yet another speaking engagement, she received a surprise visit from Mr. Thompson. The elderly man had made a full recovery from his surgery, and his eyes sparkled with warmth and admiration as he greeted her. "Dr. Patel," Mr. Thompson said, his voice filled with emotion, "I wanted to thank you personally for all that you've done, not just for me, but for this hospital and for the countless lives you've touched." Delilah felt a lump form in her throat, the weight of Mr. Thompson's words settling on her heart. "I was just doing what I believed was right," she replied softly. Mr. Thompson shook his head, a knowing smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "No, my dear, you did so much more than that. You showed us all the power of one person's conviction, the strength that lies in standing up for what is just and good." He reached out, taking Lila's hand in his own. "You are a beacon of hope, Dr. Patel. Never forget that. The world needs more people like you, those who are willing to fight for a better tomorrow." So as Mr. Thompson took his leave, Lila felt a renewed sense of purpose wash over her. She knew that her journey was far from over, that there would always be more battles to fight and more injustices to confront. But she also knew that she had found her calling, her true purpose in this life. She had been given a great gift, the chance to make a difference in the lives of others, and she would spend the rest of her days honoring that responsibility. As Lila stepped out into the bustling hallways of Mercy General Hospital, she felt a sense of pride and gratitude wash over her. The hospital had become more than just a place of healing. It had become a symbol of hope, a testament to the power of compassion and the resilience of the human spirit. And as she looked to the future, Lila knew that the journey ahead would be filled with challenges and triumphs, with moments of darkness and moments of light. But she also knew that she would face each day with the same unwavering conviction that had brought her to this moment, the same fierce determination to make the world a little bit better than she had found it. For in the end, that was the true legacy of Lila Patel, not the accolades or the achievements, but the lives she had touched, the heart she had and the unbreakable spirit of hope that she had ignited in all those who crossed her path. And so, as the sun began to set on another day at Mercy General Hospital, Lila Patel stood tall and proud, ready to face whatever the future might bring. For she knew that she was exactly where she was meant to be, doing exactly what she was meant to do, healing bodies, touching souls, and making the world a little bit brighter, one patient at a time.